Smoke.
We were sitting around a table and we're just like looking for names. And if I remember vaguely, I threw out the name, oh, let's just call it like Fragadelphia because it's in Philadelphia and frag is a kill in Counter-Strike. And somebody was like, that's stupid. And then, in 2013, all the LAN centers had closed. There was no tournaments locally. There was no event that really brought people together. At the time, I was working for Apple. My co-partner was working for, I believe at the time, Prudential or some insurance company in New York City. And we both said, hey, you remember those tournaments we used to go to? You want to throw one? And the idea was a joke at first. We actually, back in 2008, 2009, tried to create our own LAN center. We were trying to get investments and money, and it didn't work out. We were young kids. Then I started a company called Jarvis in the city of Philadelphia, and they had that facility. They knew they wanted to do cool things. I said, hey, can I throw a tournament there? It makes total sense. They said sure, and they gave me their office for the weekend. We had a limited amount of time, like 36 hours, so we ran the tournament straight through. We didn't do a 2-day event. 23 hours later, the first event happened, and people really liked it. We then ran the second one, third one. The community kept asking for more, and that just became part of my life at that point as to this is what we're going to do. The reason we did it was to give people the opportunity to play.
If you look at old footage of Frag, you can really see the difference between then and now. Back in the day, it was just something that we did for fun. I mean, we really enjoyed ourselves and we poured our hearts into it.
The Church of Fragadelphia is the only way.
Well, not only our presence here on the camera, but the players, the tournament, the organizers, and you at home. You at home, you can't scare the fishes.
May your headshots be plenty, and your raging be minimal.
I think that is accessibility of playing is just the biggest thing to me. People have to get noticed. To get further ahead in gaming in general, you have to have a great performance somewhere. College recruiting of football, they send highlight reels to multiple schools to get a scout to come out and watch their kid play. You can't do that in gaming. So you need to have lesser tournaments for that to happen. So Fragadelphia became that lesser tournament, that path that you need to do. I'm just really satisfied with our growth. It was amazing how we started with 16 and got to 52. We're really consistently hitting that kind of 40-ish level, which is, I think it's great. So if you look at our event, the age group, we're looking at having from a 34-year-old to a 16-year-old in terms of player base. We have players who have played in this tournament since the first event. That's 6.5 years ago. Granted, that team of older guys didn't advance. I mean, they probably all have jobs, they all have other things to do. But the fact that they came back and they wanted to play this tournament really shows that we're getting to that level of, I would call it, nostalgia and camaraderie you have kind of with adult sports. Like the beer league's hockey team, the dads all come together and they play on a Tuesday night.
And it's become such a big event in the open LAN circuit that everyone knows everyone's going to be here. It's sort of like FOMO. They don't want to miss out on the opportunity to just go and see everybody and play some CS.
There is a relationship here, a guy and a girl who met each other here that are now dating and live with each other. That is all come from Fragadelphia. If that is an example of what this culture is, I think we've done a really good job, and it makes me really happy and warm. It is a family.
One of the things that makes Fragadelphia really awesome is we've watched a lot of professional players come through as amateurs, so they're on their rise to the top, and we've seen the same in broadcast. We've had multiple broadcasters who came into a Fragadelphia event with zero broadcast experience, who are now actually across the world in another country casting another event in a large arena, and they got their start at Fragadelphia.
As we always thought, the whole phrase of rising tide raises all ships. We think that is key to just esports in general. The ecosystem needs to grow. So we've always given our advice or time for free, which is in a standard business model, not a good idea, but it's allowed us to become this community pillar. We throw a tournament, 52 people or teams show up. Someone else tries to do that same thing and doesn't even get 16. So the accessibility element, we helped, I think, progress the North American Counter-Strike scene into we actually helped rebirth it, if you really think it that way. We've seen, pros and guys who are on the cusp of being pros win the events. We've seen the consistency of the competition, the quality of play rise. I think because we've become a consistent pillar of what this is, you're seeing more and more teams come out here and try to learn. You learn so much faster when you come to a LAN tournament, and that allows, people to witness it, they see it, they watch it, they get to try to emulate it themselves, and that just keeps rolling forward. I think in all sports in general, and that's not just video games, the guys who play now in the NBA in 2019 are bigger, faster, stronger, and more technologically influenced than the people who played in the 70s. Same thing happened to Fragadelphia from 2014. The guys who came that day with their bring your own computer to that tournament in March of 2014 are very different than the guys who are coming now to December of 2019. They're a whole different breed. We're absolutely seeing the best in North America that is on that pro cusp.
Welcome to Fragadelphia 15. Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time since the last Fragadelphia, but we are back and we are ready for North America's greatest grassroots LAN. We got $60,000 on the line. We got 5 spots in a qualifier to the Blast Ball Showdown. We got a lot of glory and pride to play for here. We got teams from around the country ready to compete. I am so happy to be able to welcome you all back to the Fragadelphia broadcast. This is going to be a hell of a fun weekend. John, welcome to Frag, man. This is your first time at a Fragadelphia. I've been here a few years, but it's always wonderful to be back here in venue. be back here talking about these teams, be back here seeing so many familiar faces here at Fragadelphia.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to actually. It's on.
Oh, we might not have John just yet. We'll get him in just a moment, though, folks. You know, it wouldn't be Frag without a few minor technical difficulties. Thank you for bearing with us with the initial delay. We are going to get games going here in just a few moments. But there is so much to talk about here with Fragadelphia. We just watched that History of Fragadelphia video, the events over the years, what we've seen, the teams that have competed, the players that have come through here, the guys who have walked through our shots. It is just a huge story, history, and legacy here of Fragadelphia, and we are so happy to be able to build on it here with Fragadelphia 15. So we've got players coming back who have been here really since the beginning, people who've become so much a part of our community that it's just exciting. I've gotten to watch people grow up over the years at different Fragadelphias, move into different stages of their life. We were just talking about Tom and Thea's engagement there, which is really incredible, and it's just moments like those that help us build this community that we call Frag, this NACS scene. Much has been made about the death of NACS, but we're still thriving. We're still alive. We're still here and kicking, especially when our microphones work. Especially when our microphones work. Talking a little bit about what's going to be happening today. Today we've got what's called pool play. We got the group play coming in. Everyone knows what's going on there, but it's a special thing at a grassroots land like Fragadelphia, because here anyone can join. It's open signups. Anybody can be here. We've got players for whom this is their first LAN. We've got players for whom they barely played the game of Counter-Strike. This is a new experience entirely. And meanwhile, we've got established veterans. We've got teams that have been here since the beginning, teams that have been playing for years, players who've been playing for decades, competing in different versions of Counter-Strike over the years. And that mixture of experience, that mixture of competition level all comes together to make the beautiful pot that is the Fragadelphia group stage. So we got a bracket to take a look at to see what some of the competition we're going to get today is. Let's pull up this graphic, take a little peeky-poo, and see what's going to be happening. Right from the beginning, down into the mix of things. You can see at the top, we got the Bad News Bears there as the top seed. All the way at the bottom, and his finals as well coming in, and we're going to be going all the way down the line. Our first matchup today should be X13 taking on CLG Red, and what should be a pretty contentious matchup for this first group. Can we hear you here, John?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Oh, we hear John!
I'm here. All right, cool. Yeah, it's going to be a good matchup, Mike. Going to be between two advanced teams, CLG Red, X13. X13, not the X13 of old. A new roster was picked up by that organization. And yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves. 8-2 so far this season. CLG Red a little tougher right now, sitting at 3-6, but they played in Fragadelphia, Denver. Did pretty well for themselves. Ended up going down against Freestyle, I think it was, by a score of 2-0 in the playoffs. So we'll see what these two teams bring to the table.
We will see that indeed. I'm curious to see the level of this particular matchup for sure. CLG Red's obviously a team that's been competing at Fragadelphia for a number of years. I know they were here the last time we were in this particular venue, all the way back in Frag 11. It's been a hot minute since then, but we are happy to have them back, happy to have them competing on stage once more. We should be getting into that matchup in just a few moments here, John. Very excited for that one. But this is going to be interesting. X13, meanwhile, is a team we've gotten to watch a lot lately. This is a team we've seen through multiple qualifiers, we've seen competing, and this is a team that I would say has impressed us both quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing pretty well for themselves. They actually played CLG Red recently in advanced, and they faced off and won 16-6 on Vertigo. And yeah, like you said, they're doing well for themselves, doing well in advanced, and yeah. Yep.
They are. Hopefully it will be a little bit of a sparks flying this time. So, so we get a rematch, a chance for a little bit of revenge there for CLG Red coming in after having lost the match online. But you know what? These are LAN players. They've got the experience. They got the time. Now they're on LAN. They're on their playground. Is it going to go differently this time around here, John?
Yeah, I'm honest. We guess we'll find out, honestly.
We certainly will find out. We're going to take a quick look at the prize pool that we've got going on here. These teams are competing for 60,000 smackaroos. That's an incredible amount of money. $25,000 for first place. $25,000 for a first place finish. And then you see the money going on down the line, all the way down to 9th to 16th place, basically getting their entry fee back as well. So that is a lot of moolah. It's going to be quite a bit of contention there. I'm pretty excited to see this, and a lot of people are going to be walking away with a substantial amount of money this weekend, John.
Yeah, we got a lot of big teams here too that are going to be looking to take a crack at these prizes. Party Astronauts, Bad News Bears, Third Impact, RBG. Oh, there's so many big guns, but I love that there's a lot of different mixed teams coming through as well, right, Mike?
Yes, there are teams that have built together for this, players from various different rosters coming together to compete on LAN. So much of it is about coming together with the community, meeting the people that you've been playing with for the last 2 years of quarantine. Some people who've never seen each other face to face, finally putting a face to that name. It's very exciting. There's also, of course, 5 qualifier spots for the Frag Blast qualifier that'll be taking place right after this event. So that's very exciting as well. A chance to qualify through to the Blast Fall Showdown, and that's an incredible opportunity for any of the rosters that are competing here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I just thought you summed it up pretty well, Mike. I mean, lots of opportunities for them not only to take that money, but like you said, to make it to Blast, and that would be unbelievable, right? If one of these teams made it through there, that'd be so cool.
It's an incredible opportunity to compete internationally. We can see the rosters there setting up on stage. We are ready to get into the action. I think we've got the veto here to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the arena is going to be for the games between these two. Oh, we're starting with Ancient. That's how we do it. Start things off well. Start things off very well indeed with an Ancient pick. Oh, I am happy. First LAN cast in a year and a half, and it's going to be Ancient. Hell yeah. There we go. Overpass and Dust 2 going to get banned straight out. Ancient, Vertigo, and Nuke is a decider. This is a pretty funky veto. I love it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm curious to see. I'm assuming CLG Red picking Ancient there. Yeah, so CLG Red picking Ancient, and then X13 picking Vertigo. Makes sense for X13 to be on Vertigo, obviously, because they had success against CLG Red prior to this on that map, and they've also played it quite a bit throughout their season in Advanced. And then Nuke, well, if we get there, that'll be interesting.
It certainly will. I am curious to see how these first two are going to go out. Ancient's a map that we've had a lot of joy casting over the last several months since it's entered the official pool and entered competition.
Yeah, it's picking up a lot more in North America now, which I love to see. Like, we've seen it, I think, in most of our BO3s that we've casted so far in Premier, so that's awesome.
It is. It certainly is. Usually teams are so hesitant to adopt a new map, but Ancient's actually quite a bit of fun.
Yeah.
There was some hesitancy early on. Some things needed to be ironed out, and certainly there are still improvements to be made. It can be a very tricky map to work, in particular focused on towards that A site, but it can also be such a pleasure to watch. CT aggression can be so heavily rewarded, pushes down mid, pushes into B main, attacks from the Jaguar caves. There's so much that can be done, and I am curious to see how these two teams will have adopted it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we still haven't seen yet. That's why it's such an exciting map, right? Strategies are evolving right before our eyes in a lot of cases, so I'm very excited to see what these two teams are going to bring to the table.
All sorts of boosts left to be discovered. I've seen some interesting ones, especially the peaks like over the hills and towards B main.
Yes.
Teams get a little weird with it, a little funky with it. Then we head on over to Vertigo, a map that is much bemoaned, but I still love.
Yeah, you know what? I remember when we first started casting it together, I did not like it at all. It was not my favorite map, but I've learned to love it. It's grown on me, and it's certainly... Again, I mean, we got the 2 newest maps in the pool coming through in the first 2 picks, which is great. But yeah, it's a map that takes some adjusting to, Mike.
It certainly does. I don't really know these two teams' map pool that well. We've seen a bit of X13 lately, but it has been a while since I've been able to see CLG Red compete, apart from, I think, one Dust 2 game that I hopped on for their broadcast. So I am curious to see how this is going to go. It's very much unknown territory for me, especially when it comes to Ancient.
Well, I mean, you know, we have our online results, right? But LAN is a different beast, as we both know. And I think they performed pretty well for themselves when they were in Denver. I mean, like I said, they made it almost to the semifinals, but they got cut off by Freestyle, which I think was a premier Pug team at the time. But either way, yeah, I'm curious to see what they'll be able to achieve here and how far they'll be able to go into this bracket.
And now, of course, as well, one thing that needs to be noted is they're playing on stage. Yes, there might not be a huge audience at this point, but the stage is even an extra element into that LAN mentality.
It is.
You're still looking out. You're still seeing all that's going on. You know the spotlights are on you. You know those bright lights are shining, and you've got to perform when that spotlight is brightest. So we'll see who can stand up to a little bit of the pressure. That's one of the things that's so cool about Fragadelphia is that a lot of teams that have never had the opportunity to play on this kind of stage in this kind of a venue, they're getting that chance now. It's an experience that really can't be compared to any other.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and me being here for the first time, Mike, didn't get a chance to talk about it earlier, but yeah, it's super exciting being at a Frag. I mean, I'm happy to have the opportunity to be here, and it's just the environment, the atmosphere is just really awesome. The fact that we even get to get LAN again, Mike, is just great in itself, right?
It really is. It has been December 2019 was the last time I cast a LAN, and it's been a long time, man. It's been a long time. I couldn't be any happier to be here. You see the pit in the background. I see Rise is mugging at the camera right now, leaning on over from in the pit. But there's a lot of players in the pit, a lot of names who I've seen compete over the last couple of years that I'm very happy to see in person here. It's just so nice to be back. Oh, yeah. So nice to have a pit to be able to describe. It brings the warm fuzzies into my cold, dead heart. Just really gets the juices flowing again. LAN is just such a different beast to love. We are going to be hopping in just a moment, folks, but before then, John, your first Fragadelphia. It's off to a hot start. How are you feeling about Frag?
I'm feeling amazing about it. I think I just mentioned it, Mike.
That's true. When have you watched the Fragadelphias in the past?
A bit, not too much actually. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna be honest here.
Wow, we're really exposing him quick. Baptism by fire here. My first Fragadelphia was Fragadelphia 10, as I recall. I walked in because they posted something on Reddit about as like a footnote of there might be open caster opportunities, right. And I walked in and asked to be put on the mic. I was put on the mic, and the rest is history. They somehow made this a career path, which is just real shocker. But they've kept me around somehow. I haven't managed to mess it all up yet, which is good to have. Back here now, like 5 years later. I was looking back at some clips to prep for this, and it was so long ago. I was so young.
Yeah, time flies, honestly. Like, feels like just yesterday. My path was very different, obviously. Casting main, advanced, it was a lot of fun, but getting here is just the penultimate, right? Being actually at the event and being able to cast this. I feel like it's a rite of passage almost as casters that we have to be at a Fragadelphia at some point, right?
Certainly in North America, man. Fragadelphia is such a piece of the scene, such an intrinsic piece of who we are as a region, who we are as a scene, a lot of the identity here in NA. This is where everybody meets and gets to square up. And it is also, I know I mentioned this before, I've mentioned this a couple times already, but the coolest thing is that you get players of so many different levels competing against each other. Yes. So you never know who's going to come up. You look at it and you think, okay, Premier team, advanced team, you should know who's winning, but you don't. I remember the last time we were in this venue, Complexity showed up. Complexity, the signed team, which back then was like, I'm trying to remember who was the roster. I want to say Slemmy, Android, Def, that whole crew. Desi, I think, was on it. They went out third. Complexity, professional roster, lost to a mixed team. It happens. I watched Gorilla Core, which was Kogu's team at the time, came and lost to a main team called Cyber Bullies. You never know what's going to happen here on LAN. There's a magic to it. There's always the chance for the upset. There's always the chance for stuff to get weird, and that's what makes this so exciting. That's what makes this so dynamic, and this is where legends are born. Players who I watched back then, who I discovered for the first time, are now competing. A lot of them are, pros at different levels. We've got players like Grim, who've competed at Fragadelphia's before, who's now on Liquid. You got OC over in Extra Salt, who's been playing at all these lands for a long time. These guys all came through Fragadelphia's and similar lands, and it's awesome to wonder who are we going to first take note of here at this Fragadelphia 15, who's going to make it to that big stage.
I was just going to say the same thing, Mike, like who's going to be that one star that's going to come through and blossom here at Fragadelphia. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. And we got the rosters up coming up here for CLG Red. Obviously, most of you guys probably know them already because they've been together for quite some time. In fact, some of them have been around for 15 seasons in ESEA. But Dai, Jennifer, Goosebreeder, Emmy, and Yuli.
It is a very storied roster there. It's a team that's gotten a lot of competition. It's been to a lot of Fragadelphias. I'd actually say, trying to think through, this is completely off the top of my head and is almost certainly not true, so take it with many grains of salt here. They may be the most Frag experienced roster at this event. I haven't done the math myself, but I think cumulatively they might have the most Frag attendances of anyone here, which is pretty awesome to see. It's great to have them continue to come back and give it a challenge here at Fragadelphia. So we're very happy to have them here. Talking about, being in this venue is bringing back so many memories of Fragadelphia 11 specifically, because that's the last time we were here. And I'm looking back on a team. I remember a team back then called Lol Yeah. It was a team with Jasper, SFX, who's well known here in the East Coast community, Nerfed, who's been competing in Valorant, Tom Connors, who's the guy we were talking about his engagement not that long ago, Infinite, who's here competing with the Party Astronauts this time around, and Magnet Truck. That was a team that completely exploded that land. They played some amazing games on stage, some amazing games on the mainstream. Gave some hilarious interviews. Jasper then played in a Hearthstone tournament that was happening simultaneously and talked trash to Hearthstone players, which was hilarious to watch. It just, from that moment, the stories were born. I've known and talked to some of those guys for years at this point, and it really all comes back to Fragadelphia 11. So having Infinite back here competing in a different team, but still, part of the Frag community is just so cool to see.
Yeah, it's good to see Infinite return from the dark side, right, Mike? Coming back from Valorant, I believe it was. He was exploring that a little bit, right? But we're here with Counter-Strike. Back in the Counter-Strike game is he with the Party Astronauts, and that team in itself is really impressive. But talking a little bit about X13, well, yeah, you got their roster right there: Maxwell, Lemon, Scar, Eris, and Dalton. A lot of players that I've seen around, especially Eris, and both. I think he was in Premier for a little bit, maybe as a coach, but obviously playing in Advanced now.
We'll see how they do up on stage. Other thing I want to talk about are our other casters here. I've been joking about it, but it's like the Rugrats. I feel like we're the parents here, John. We were doing the math. Between our ages, we have more years than the other 3 who are going to be on. We've got Exner now joining them. He might have tipped them over the scale of being cumulatively older than us. I'm not actually sure about that one. But we've got some young casters. Some of them were reclaiming from the Valorant side of things, coming back to their roots in Counter-Strike.
Yes.
But a lot of young faces over on the B stream who will be rotating through the A stream here. We'll see a lot of them this weekend. That Fragadelphia 2 is going to be where we see a lot of the action as well, so be sure to tune into Frag 2. Be another match going simultaneously over on that stream. And it's just so cool to see, these young guns coming out, getting gigs, making careers, so much talent on them, and then getting a chance to bring them into Fragadelphia and plug them into the legacy, make them a part of it. Upmind's been here before. Upmind cast at Fragadelphia 14, but for the rest of them, actually, I think Sylvan may have as well. I wasn't actually at that one. That conflicted with the global challenge, but it's so cool to see the youth come up and be a part of this, be a part of the legacy of Fragadelphia as well. It's a real pleasure as someone who is apparently esports old to be able to welcome them on in. And I'm not that old yet, guys.
Oh gosh, if you're old,
I'm still
Mike,
spry.
If you're old, then I'm a grandfather, right? Jesus.
We were supposed to have Mark here to help contribute to the old side of things. I said I was going to have to bully the youth since he wasn't here to do it, but it's nice. It's nice to see the youth. It's nice to see the youngins being a part of this, being a part of the system, and bringing them on into the fold. It is a good time. We should be starting here in just a moment here, folks. Hopefully not too much longer. So Ancient, what's your favorite call out on Ancient these days? Getting back into the games.
Yeah, I guess we talked about Jaguar a little bit, I guess, but I prefer calling it Lamp Room, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, lame.
I've come around here a lot of thinking, Mike, it's all right. I'll call it Jaguar for you.
Jaguar's just a sick call out. Look, Lamp, I agree, is a better way to calm when you're actually competing and playing.
Yes.
But Jaguar is a much cooler call out. It's just awesome. And there's so many different puns and figurative language you can use off of the call Jaguar as opposed to Lamp. What are you going to do? Oh, they touched the lamp and burned themselves. It was too hot.
Why not?
You could do moth. You could also do moth to the lamp. Now I'm thinking about it. There's jokes that could be done there as well. But Jaguar's just awesome. And please, Valve put a sick Jaguar mural up on the wall. Like, we don't get that often. So if we're going to get that, we might as well make a call of it, right? It's like a graffiti built into the map. You're already good for it. You're already ready for it. That's what we love to see. We love to see Jaguar plays. And it's also one of the most dynamic areas of the map as well, I would say. Been seeing a lot of what they'll do is they'll actually push an opera into there and get pretty funky with the initial peak as they come around B main, and you can get real bold between that and the window peak there, John.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the choke points are happening, well, obviously towards mid, right? You have a lot of players coming towards there trying to gain control of that because you have so much access to both bomb sites from there. But Snake as well is a really interesting spot right in front of Jaguar coming out of there. I love the plays that are able to be made, and like the players charging through there also gain access to the B site in a very dynamic way. So yeah, I think what's great about Ancient in general is just how big of a map it is and how many possibilities are opened up, not only to the Ts that are pushing into the bomb sites, but the CTs to try and go for those flanks. And in that way, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Overpass, but it's definitely got a different dynamic overall than Overpass.
You know, we've got Snake, we've got Jaguar. I feel like we could continue with the theme here and find some more animal names for different callouts on the map. There's got to be something that's a parrot, because we got to specifically stick with animals that would be native to the ancient environs, right? So what are we going to call parrot on the map?
Oh God, I have no idea. That's a.
All right, I've got an idea. I'm proposing this out here to the larger audience, folks. We're just putting this out there. You know that back corner on B, where frequently an op will hold peeking in towards B main? That's Parrot. There's nothing it has to do with parrots. I'm just dubbing it right now. Parrot. We're gonna.
Sure.
I'm gonna try and call it this map. We'll see how it feels.
We'll have to like list out all the animal names that are
How it
possible
plays.
and try to match them with the
Sloth. We have to have a sloth point on the map. Oh, okay. Opportunities are here. Sloth. Let's see. What else? We're testing my biology here. I don't have much. There's giant Amazonian river otters. I don't know if this is quite to the Amazon. I know it's Mesoamerica, but we could go for some giant river otters. What would be otter on the map? There are options here, folks. There's possibilities. If you get in the chat, I can't see chat right now, but get in the chat. Propose things for parrot, sloth, otter. We need your help.
Yeah, we definitely do. No, it's it'll be interesting to see. Honestly, the callouts aren't even finalized in my mind. Like I know a lot of people are calling things different. Like for example, just now we mentioned Lamprey and Jaguar. You know, it's not really agreed upon what people are going to call it at the end of the day. I'm agreeing with you that it should be Jaguar. My point is like it's really fun to have that dynamic as well of a new map and all the callouts are just up in the air. You know.
People also call it cheetah, which it's not cheetah. There's not cheetahs in that part of the world. Come on, guys. It's clearly a jaguar. Get it right.
No, it's definitely Jaguar.
It's not a cheetah. It's not a cheetah. We need to be locally accurate. I know Maui Snake was ranting at one point about what was being called temple in the back of A. Isn't a temple, it's a catacomb. A temple would actually be the thing in the middle based on architecture and any records of archaeology of similar sites. And you know what? That kind of pedantry is something that I can get behind. That kind of specificness and attention to detail and unnecessary pedantry, that's something I can get behind. I'm here for it. I'm very much here for it.
I love the research that was put into it too, and it's just such a well-written post and everything. I couldn't disagree. So it was, yeah.
He's a clever cat, that Maui Snake. We're sad he couldn't be here, but you know, we'll make do in his absence. We'll just name other things Snake. Well, we already have Snake. We don't need that one. We don't need that one. We could start calling it Python if we wanted to get more specific.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate, perhaps.
I feel like Python is a good call out there. It's a nice, got some teeth to it. Unfortunately, whatever's going on with the stage right now hasn't quite been sorted out. So while we go put out those fires and hit some wrenches onto some PCs, we're going to take a quick break and be right with you in a flash. Welcome back, everybody, to Fragadelphia 15. This time, we're going to be ready to get going here in just a moment with CLG Red versus X13. And we got the veto as well. It's Ancient, Vertigo, Nuke as a decider if we do get to it. John, I am so ready to hop into the server and sink our teeth into an Ancient game, much like the Jaguar, the Mural, and Jaguar would do.
Absolutely, yeah. No, Ancient is going to be interesting. We don't have much history from both teams on Ancient. As far as I know, they don't play it too much or haven't played it too much yet. So I love it when these wildcard picks come through from either of the teams, right, to see if they can catch someone else off guard.
Mm-hmm. It is going to be interesting to see. I'll just say it's going to be an interesting challenge this weekend casting with a mask on, where I just see the fog slowly covering my glasses here. I need to get some windshield wipers for these things. There you go. You can see it in real time on the camera. I just need... why has no one invented just tiny windshield wipers? Tiny windshield wipers. I guess they need to be on the inside of my glasses, but, you know, it can be done. I'll just take the glasses off. I don't need to see. That's fine. Seeing is believing, they say. Not seeing... well, I don't know. You'll just look at my unfocused eyes here. It's fine. This is fine. Everything's fine. All right, so we figured out Jaguar. While we're waiting to get into the server, I want Sloth. It needs to be a Sloth picture. I think... here's what I'm going to say. Okay, you know the boost up immediately as you come out A main on the right as you approach the A site? I think that's Sloth.
You know what, Mike? For you, I think that's Sloth.
Because there's a tree there, isn't there? There's definitely some bushes and some shrubbery.
There are. So the Sloth could be in the tree. So
I feel like a Sloth would vibe there.
Yeah, for sure.
That call out I don't think is going to stick on, but it's good. What we need is NAF to have a clip on a spot, and then we can call that Sloth.
Yeah, okay.
That's his vibe.
We need to get that.
Yeah.
At some point. I don't know how, but we will.
I know that's what the NAFers in chat always enjoy, is the Sloth meme. But, yeah, no, you know what? I like Sloth. It might have to move. I don't know. It's a workshop. It's a work in progress.
You know
Look,
what?
they have a workshop for maps. I need a workshop for caster callouts.
We need to call it Sloth at least for today and tomorrow.
At least for today. We'll sort of let it sit on the tongue and see how it feels. See how it feels here. You can see the players loading in. Our lovely stage admins making sure that everything's going to be A-okay, making sure that everyone doesn't break the PCs. It is amazing what players can do to a perfectly constructed PC in the setup process. It is genuinely astounding how many ways things can go wrong on LAN. I've learned many over the years. It's like a Rolodex that keeps getting new cards added.
I mean, yeah, I'll have to take your word for it, Mike. I mean, I've been to my fair share of LANs, but certainly not as many as you have. And yeah, the setup process is always just crazy, but we'll get going here soon.
I remember the strangest delay I ever had was it was an event that was in a convention center that was actually named after the internet provider for the convention center.
Okay.
But a CS update triggered, and every computer simultaneously tried to start updating. And so the convention center, this wasn't even a Steam problem, their internet provider throttled the connection in response. So it crawled down to like 1 megabyte a second. It was just really gnarly throttling in that regard. So we were literally in a convention center named after the internet provider, and we couldn't get internet for like 6 hours until they turned it back on. Whole LAN got delayed 6, 7, 8 hours as a result. It was the funniest thing ever in a really dark, twisted sense.
Oh, the irony is palpable there.
Yeah, at the time, not so funny. Looking back, hilarious.
Absolutely.
But such is the way it goes. So we are going to get into the action. CME sat down after waving to us on the camera, saying a nice hello. We got this game going. A rematch of not that long ago. That one was online. This one's on LAN. A best of 3. Better in every way, shape, or form. Now it's going to happen. I'm ready. The anticipation is heavy.
Too. Yeah, I've been ready.
Electricity in the air, folks. Electricity in the air. The players in the pit getting into their matches. The players on the stage are ready. I see them logging into the server, folks. This is going to happen. The action is going to occur, and we are going to see who's going to win in the first A-Stream matchup of Fragadelphia. You may be able to hear a little bit of shouting picking up over on our microphones as well. That is Fragadelphia 2, where we have the lovely Rugrats of Upmind and Sully taking us through the action. I've been trying to figure out if we can get them a Stew Diver to really complete the image, maybe a Reptar plushie. But the youth are over on Fragadelphia 2, whooping it up and having a good time, so be sure to check them out as well, see how they're doing, and meme on them for leaving us for Valorant.
Yes, absolutely. That will happen a lot. I've been waiting for an opportunity, and it will come. But yeah, I'm excited to get some action of our own here soon, Mike, so we can get whooping and wailing ourselves about these two squads. And I do see almost everyone in the server, which is pretty exciting.
It looks good. It looks good. It's looking favorable.
Oh.
Ready to see some takes on in. This, I actually don't recall whose map choice this was. Do you remember off the top of your head?
CLG, I believe.
So if it's CLG's map pick, presumably we're going to see X13 start on the defensive side. The CT side on Ancient does tend to be quite dominant in the current meta.
Yes.
Something to keep an eye out, folks. We're expecting players to get really up towards double digits on their CT side. Much less than that is a bit of a disappointment. So that's something we'll be keeping our eyes on to see how the first half plays out and what that could mean.
Yeah, absolutely. This reminds me a lot of Nuke, or maybe the Nuke of old, because Nuke nowadays tends to give you more opportunities on T side, but still, you kind of expect to see the CTs get double digits there, and on Ancient as well. You need to get your double digit rounds in, and if you don't, it's considered a loss on CT side, in my opinion, even if you get more rounds overall.
Yeah, and one thing to note for the audience watching at home, it's been a long time since we've had a lot of LAN CS. It's starting to come back, but it's been a long time. Just so you know, if you've been watching 2 years of online CS and you're wondering, how's it going to be different on LAN? Well, you can hold angles. You can hold angles, and it feels so good. So operas tend to have a very good time on LAN in particular because you don't really have the peeker's advantage you do in online play. There's none of that right eye, left eye madness coming through. There's none of that insanity coming on in. It's all about who can hit the shot first, and that really does lead to some interesting engagements, especially on a map like Ancient, where op aggression can be so rewarding. I'm expecting some mad pushes down main, down mid, up on either side. Like, I'm expecting the operas to really start to have a field day on this map, and that's something I'm going to be looking at as an early key for who's going to have the advantage here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we saw, I forgot who it was, I think it was Pain playing on Ancient. They're so good on that map, and they use the op really dynamically, and you're absolutely right, Mike. It has to happen, especially on CT side. You get a little bit of aggression towards mid, get control of mid early on, that'll really help you out, there's no doubt.
We'll be seeing it here. Am I hearing? Oh, I'm hearing the shouts coming from the pit now.
Yeah,
that's my favorite part of LAN is the trash talk, John. The trash talk. Players getting loud, players shouting at each other, letting them know. There's been some really savory bits of trash talk at Fragadelphia over the years. One of my personal favorites was when a certain player pulled a clip off against the other player, stood up and just shouted, "Take a shower, 'cause you stink!" It's my favorite moment. Another shout out to Jasper there. I think I've already called him out like twice this tournament, so thank you for that moment. It'll eternally be in my mind, eternally be there. But hopefully we get some more iconic clips, some iconic moments, some tasty language, some spicy phrases, and we are into the action. We're into the CS. We're actually going to be able to talk about the Counter-Strike now. You don't have to listen to, well, you still have to listen to our voices, but they actually have something to talk about for the time being. It is going to be X13 indeed starting on that CT side. It looks like we're going to get some early B aggression coming through from CLG Red. They got utility to get on towards the site and early engagement. Well, just do a tiny bit of dust-up damage. Dalton's going to try and push the flank. And no, they're not ready for this. They're not peeking it. In towards Jaguar. Down goes another. 2 bodies already hitting the floor. This is not looking good for CLG. Might just be able to force this bomb plant. Indeed, they will. But the retake's going to be tough to hold on to. Better if Emmy and Goose go forward and get a couple of quick kills. Now this is looking viable. This is looking possible. They've cleared out the flank as well, so they don't only have to worry about an attack from one side. A smoke in, but this first engagement's so important. Yuli manages to take one down. Damage done onto another. The Dinks are here, and they're just going to try and hop on the bomb. Maxwell does have the kit, but they do have to force the issue. They do have to force the fight, and oh, there's the first shot. Emmy cannot hang on. So close, yet so far away.
Yeah, that was a pretty good hold considering it was a man disadvantage there for CLG Red post-plant, but Maxwell came through and took care of business in that 1v1, and X13 pick up their first round. At the very least, At the very least, CLG Red get the bomb plant. They get initially $800 in the bank accounts to work with, and they're going to use it right away. They're forcing into this one, and you expect it because you can get 2 Galils and an AK out of it, which is pretty darn good. And the Tech 9 and Deagle come through. Over on the X13 side, they're going to be rocking those MP9s, 3 of them, in fact, the AUG and the FAMAS. Here comes Yule, Lemonade gets one. That's a good opener here for CLG Red. Dalton goes down, and that's mid-control given to CLG.
They're just going to chill out for a minute here. Calm it right on down. Sit on their advantage like a dragon guarding its hoard. And try and bait out a response here from X13. It's absolutely a reasonable thing to do. They got that pick so early into the round. You got time to burn. But no push will be given to them. It's actually a very passive hold. There's aggressive stancing in towards Jaguar, and actually now they're going to go. Never mind. Here comes the push out. They're pushing, checking B main, clearing the window in towards mid again, and oh, Emmy's found Scar, so now Eris has to come back through, but are they expecting another? They are indeed. Emmy knocking heads off of shoulders, no problem, no fuss, no muss, just a clear B bomb site, and an easy and free take prepared for CLG Red.
Yeah, that was a really nice approach, Mike, for them just to calculate, take care of everyone across the map, calculating all their moves, and now they've gone to the B site, cleared out everything, and they got all angles covered. You're looking at the economy for X13, obviously only round number 2. Maxwell and Lemon sitting at $0 a piece, and the AUG and the FAMAS are very much worth saving, so they're not even going to really challenge here onto the site, so credit to CLG Red for coming through with a great force buy round, Mike.
A forceful buy indeed. How far do they go on the hunt? Dice chasing. Tech9 up. Not really too much to save there, certainly for the armor useful, but hey, you might as well try and take the gun out of their hands. Tech9 on the prowl. Spotted one. Does she notice the one in the corner? Does she check? Does she clear? Clears left. Shot from the right. So these guns should make it through, and indeed they will. CLG Red not going to threaten further, but again, it was just a Tech9 loss, so no harm, no foul there for CLG Red. Meanwhile, money in the toilet for X13. The investment will come through. It's Deegs going back the other way.
Oh, we've seen this story play out before in this current economy, haven't
Yes.
we, Mike?
Doesn't tend to favor the CTs.
Yeah, eventually you run out of gas, right? Run out of money, I should say. And there, well, let's see if they can come through and at least get a round victory under their belts with 3 Deagles, the FAMAS, and the AUG from the previous round. Dalton already staring down into smoke here, so mid's been blocked off from him. And I like the smoke execution from CLG Red at the very least. They've done their homework on Ancient. And Yuli waiting, could have an engagement very shortly with Dalton, but he could have the advantage. Yeah, this is getting a little hairy.
Oh, smoke fades. He's out in the open. Oh, the Deeg shots go wide. Couldn't connect, and Yuli will be able to walk away from that triumphant. Eris nearly burns to a crisp as well, but there are still the 2 rifles, the major threat into the round. We're playing around the donut and the temple in towards mid. Donut's going to be the engagement. Yuli going looking for it. And she'll come out on top. Lemons. Juice has been squeezed out of that one. And Yuli will make lemonade out of the position. I guess better, it would be a lemon glazed donut, considering the spot she's in. Good donuts, lemon glaze.
They are.
Scar's collected a kill elsewhere, but it does mean that the A site is ripe and open. Speaking of lemons, ripe lemon. Bomb will be planted here in just a moment. There's some exposed angles and a flank coming around. Player working the way into Donut, player working the way into A main. This could get risky. CLG Red needs to secure a flank, and Donut has already been. And me needs to be careful not to get caught from behind. And there it's going to be, but the Eagle cannot connect once again. All onto Maxwell now. Last man alive, just going to try and save this all. Going to try and give them something working forward into the future. That's all he can hope for. A precious future where his AUG will be valuable once more.
Yeah, absolutely. As Maxwell is just hanging around here. Going to be another round victory for CLG Red. So good on them to get a comeback going after losing that pistol round, which can be important on your T side of Ancient, because that's usually rounds early. So to bounce back immediately and pick up a couple is going to be very important for them in the long run for this map. And looking at X13, well, they tried for that forest buy. It didn't pan out. And as you can see, they are completely broke now. But you have Maxwell with a good chunk of utility, and of course the AUG. We'll see where they post him up, as it only takes 1 rifle to pull off a round victory. Just have to get them in the right position. As you're going to see X13 going for a full-on push. Forget about positioning the AUG. They're just going to push down towards mid, go for that early control, and they get it. Unluckily for them, though, CLG Red were actually planning on going outside the double doors towards the B site, and they've already taken control at least of that area, but they haven't gone into Snake yet, and that could be a problem for them, Mike, because you got 3 players
the
posted
boost.
up.
I did like the boost, but Emmy has been deadly in that position. Her responsibility in their initial default is just to make sure that window doesn't come through and pressure the B hold. That is her main focus early, and she's been so dang good at it. Goose is going to come back, peek back through, and make sure there are no problems whatsoever. Now, the only thing they haven't found is this AUG, and the AUG will make them pay for that. But now that they know where the last player is, they're just going to plant this bomb, and then they're going to get quick into the hunt.
Oh, yeah. Maxwell's kind of
A wounded
really
gazelle.
Yeah, he's in a really bad position here. And, yep, he's done. Emmy, a nice little 3K put together by her in that round. And speaking of 3, that's the amount of rounds that CLG Reds put up on the board. But X13, well, they have enough to go for the M4s at the very least. Maybe some FAMASas to get utility in play. They could have gone for a half buy and played it more conservatively. But instead, they want those rifles out as soon as possible, Mike, to try and get back into this.
Emmy's had a ripper of a start, 8-1 to this point.
Yep.
Again, just been so deadly in policing that initial window push that they've tried to go for a couple times. It's not going to happen here. It's not going to be allowed. Molly's all over the place. X13 trying to enforce a little map control early on, but they haven't actually capitalized on it. Player back in A, player back in the Temple, and then some aggression coming out of Jaguar with 3 players committed to it, but here's the response from CLG. The aggression comes through from X13 on B, and, well, they're not in the same zip code. That smoke is well timed, might just slow down this push, but CLG could just go through it. And yeah, the flashbang, they are going to do so. They're going to chase on in. Here comes the hit, here comes the pressure. There's one player out on site exposed. Lemons will try and hold back this tide, this momentum, and cannot do so. Maxwell finds one from in the catacombs, but the trade might be here. No. Able to withdraw, keep the numbers even. Stevens, but this bomb should be planted in a moment. There's not a whole lot that they can do to deny. Donut fight. Timing is rough there. Yuli can't get around in time. Left to throw a smoke, and Dalton will punish with 2 as a result. Now this retake's in a really good situation. Goose Breeder starts to pluck some feathers, but it's all going to be on to the Catacombs fight now. Dai has to hold on. She finds the first, but not the second. Just about. X13 will limp through this round. Finally get another on the board. They're not taking much in terms of economy through, but they are taking a round win.
Yeah, that's just so tough once you get down a man on the T side, post plant. The CTs have four positions that they can pinch in from, and yeah, after that, it just gets really hard to defend against them. Credit to CLG, though. They almost pulled it off and die at the end, just going down to 1v1. That said, X13 do get that second round on the board. CLG Red built up enough economy for themselves to absorb it. They got the 4 AKs and the op coming into this one versus X13, who are still a little rough in terms of economy. That's how it usually is once you start getting the rounds from the board on CT side. But they got an AK, an M4, 2 FAMASas, and the MP9 to help them out. Scar's using some utility here. Running towards double doors. He's got the FAMAS in his hands. And Eris, in the meantime, waiting in Jaguar to greet whoever might come that way. And it could be someone soon, since CLG Red has just sent out 3 players from the double doors. And the engagement is looming. Eris throws the smoke. Molotov comes into Jaguar, so it'll force Eris back and out. He has to leave, or else he's going to take more damage than he already has.
Dai has revealed that they have the op as well, which is a little unusual, I would say, for an ancient T side. We've seen teams go both ways, right? There's some flexibility as to what you want to do with the AWP, but they're going to try and set up some initial picks. Mid control will be conceded. Goose will start to realize that. Pressure coming on in, so they'll start to take some control. Move up towards the donut, shift that around. No, they actually just want to completely abandon it. They're going to focus into this B hold, and X13 are actually decently set up to receive it. So here's going to come the pressure. Here's going to come the hit. Here's going to come the motion. Smoke's out, 40 seconds on the clock. Counter utility starts to be deployed, but will be enough to hold back the tide. Yes, they don't have an answer to that Molotov. Not prepared for it, so they do have to hang up just for a moment. Here comes the play from around the pillar. There's the clear, though. Jennifer gets the first, but in the caves, it's Eris. So even trades to this point, but the site's still lost. Bomb now down, and a retake necessary. Lemons will just have an SMG on this, but otherwise it's not terribly restricted. There is some utility as well to close some of these angles, and that'll start to be deployed. Molly to force Jennifer out from behind the pillar. She's burning. Just commits. Didn't realize what was happening. Didn't realize how close she was to death, and she will, in fact, expire. These players not revealing themselves, but they are smoked off. They're trying to deny the plant. Need to make a move now, and it's not going to happen. Maxwell and Lemons read that nicely, losing the player behind the pillar. Just sent their post plant a tumbling down to the ground. X13 this time start to build.
Yeah, but at the very least, CLG Red are getting the bomb plants in, which is helping their economy immensely. And yeah, you can see them already getting into another full-on buy-up. And Dai, you mentioned it with the op. I think she's a pretty good mobile opera, though, which is what you need on a map like Ancient. You can't have the, well, typically most players now that are in the opera rate are pretty versatile. But Dai, in fact, very solid. Last season, her stats were really good. This season's a little bit tough for the whole team, but last season, 298 frags, a plus 30 kill to death differential, and a 19.9 frags per map, along with 22 3-kill plus rounds. So maybe we'll see some clutch performances from her with that AWP very soon. But getting back into the action here, all tied up at 3-3, as Jennifer is waiting there. All right, around, where was she located? I can't track her. There we go. Goose Breeder, in the meantime, is going to be throwing that Molotov. They're throwing it every single time, but this time Eris is on the other side of it. They're not going to